Our third speaker is Dr. Michel Boufadel, a professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. Dr. Boufadel is also director of the Center for Natural Resources Development and Protection. His research involves mitigating the adverse effects of unsustainable practices. He has been investigating the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Prince William Sound, Alaska, and BP's Deepwater Horizon spill in the Gulf of Mexico. He has also been investigating the extraction of natural gas from shale formations through hydraulic fracturing or hydrofracking. Dr. Boufadel serves on the National Research Council Committee focusing on the BP Gulf spill and has recently served on the Environmental Protection Agency's Science Advisory Board on hydrofracking. Dr. Boufadel.
Thank you. As you can see, the topic of my discussion is going to be how to shore up our shorelines. And the reason for that is that shorelines, we know, and by 2050, about 50% of the population on the world, of the world would be living within 200 miles of the shorelines. We expect deterioration of these shorelines due to urban sprawl and excessive discharge of chemicals into the environment. There are also other issues that would result from urban sprawl, or essentially high density of population, and these would include what you call the saltwater intrusion, which is typically due to extraction or withdrawal of groundwater for drinking water purposes or for irrigation. And also we have the other important issue to think about all the time, which is the sea level rise and how that is going to increase the encroachment of salt water into shorelands. The rate of rise currently is about 3 millimeters per year. There are also other issues of interest, such as hurricanes. We have learned from Hurricane Katrina that the absence of marshland actually magnified the damage on New Orleans and its surrounding community. But in this particular case, I'm going to talk about oil spills. And it's really not to focus our research here at NJIT on oil spill. This is an expertise that we have, but the tools that we have developed allows us actually to communicate and collaborate with other researchers at NJIT. There are also, when we're going back to the issue of sea level rise, the length of shoreline can be shown. It is directly related to the productivity of certain state. The longer the shorelines that you have, the more likely that you'll be able to benefit from them. And no wonder why most people want to flock to shorelines. So if, for example, if you compare us to New Jersey to New York, the length of our shorelines, including embayments and barrier islands, is about 1,800 miles, whereas New York State is about 2,600 miles. I think with proper management of our shorelines, who knows? I mean, maybe our shorelines could be, larger instead of just better. So, with that in mind, I'm going to focus on oil spills and focus on the more important ones that we work on. The Exxon Valdez oil spill, there were about 40,000 tons released in 1989. In 2007, there were about 60 to 100 tons that were persisting in some beaches, and you see it here. That's me here, and we have students involved. Oil was about a foot below the surface, and when you dig a hole, it kind of oozes out from the ground. Our work in 2010 allowed us to explain why is it that the oil is persisting, by that time about 18 years into the beaches. And currently we have our staff, who are NJIT staff, started on July 1st. They are bioremediating the spill. And in that occasion, I want to thank the department chair, Dr. Taha Marhaba, and the dean, Dr. Sunil Saigal, to make the transition kind of seamless, because really I started here on July 1st, and we had to be in the field on July 3rd, and we were able to get all the team and the students to be involved in this work. This is what we're dealing with. These are NJIT students and faculty and staff, and you definitely don't want to get to this situation where your beach is really kind of on life support, if you want to say. So the next beach that, or oil spill that we work on is the Deepwater Horizon blowout. The blowout occurred about at 5,000 feet below the surface, about 1.5 miles. It released oil over approximately 90 days. It was 800,000 tons, which is 20 times more than the Exxon Valdez oil spill. And the amount of shorelines that were heavily impacted, the length of these shorelines, they were about 200 miles. These are some of the pictures, top view satellite imagery of the spill. The spill occurred on April 22nd. This is on May 9th. You see the area, the distance here, say from one side to the other is about 100 miles. This is Louisiana. These are the Chandler Islands. These are barrier islands. On May 24th, you see it got bigger, it spread, and it hit many islands. And this is June 19th. So the size of the spill wasn't, some kind of uniform. And talking about nanotechnology, as the former speaker, the thickness of the oil on the surface could be microns. Now, 100 microns is the thickness of a hair, a human hair. So you could imagine that there was always a major difficulty in estimating the volume of oil on the surface, because between 0.1 millimeter and 1 millimeter, there are 10 folds. And this is here on July 12th. The well was capped. The Deepwater Horizon well was capped on July 15th. So what do we need to know about deep blowout? What we know is that large oil droplets, they tend to rise to the surface, and the smaller ones, they don't as much. And a good analogy would be, if you have a volleyball, and then you try to squish it down the water, and then it shoots up, whereas it will be easier for you to push down a ping pong. Each of them has air in it. However, the volume of the volleyball, in this case, would make it more likely to rise. So the size of the droplets play an important role. And in this particular case, we are still, developing models to understand the breakup of the droplets, but I won't show them now. I want to just show a simulation that we have of the spill. So as you can see, you have small plume moving this way. These are the small droplets. And then you have the other plume rising, which are the big droplets that eventually reach up to the surface. And that's why when people say there is a plume down deep, that's the plume they're talking about. They are small enough so they don't rise to the surface. Now, in this particular investigation for today, we're addressing one issue, which is what would have been the amount of oil that reached the shoreline had the well been capped after 1 week, because it took about 3 months to cap it. So what would have happened if it were capped after 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, etc.? What would have been the damage? We focused on shorelines because, first, of course, they have their recreational value, but also of fishery, and because from an ecological point of view, they are highly productive. And the way we're going to address this here, we are going to conduct some simulations. We're going to track the movement of oil. but we don't want the exercise to be academic. We work closely with the Office of Response and Restoration, with NOAA, during the spill. So we have the data that were used on every day, every moment, on how to track the oil. We synthesized these data, and then we are running now various models and try to answer the questions. What would have happened had the well been capped after 2 weeks? For example, there is the model that we used, which is called NOM from NOAA, does not occur for the oil depletion of the surface. We made some changes to it to allow it to do so. And we also assume that whenever the oil reaches the shoreline, it does not float, nor does it break down, biodegrade, or weather. So this is simulation that we conducted. And as you can see, here you have these Chandelier Islands. And when you see when the oil beaches, they stop refloating. I would also urge you to look at one area. Well, hopefully don't get to the shore. At some moment you will see that the oil is going away from the shoreline. And that would have given that's a good time to kind of be able to cap the well before the oil returns based on current and winds. You notice sometimes if you keep your eyes on some of the oil spots, they disappear because we are assuming that something is breaking them, whether it is by evaporation or they clump together and sink to the bottom. And we conducted this simulation with different assumptions, as I said, capping after 1 week, 2 weeks, etc. But this is the overall, this is just to match what was observed. And this is one of the graphs that we are summarizing the results. What you have here on the left is the amount of oil in tons, and as function of time. This is April 23rd, May, and here this particular plot tells you the amount of oil that is on the surface. Now the amount of oil on the surface decreases by this, what we observe, due to depletion by evaporation and then biodegradation and clumping together and sinking. And we found out it's the rate to be 20%. So if you are on one day you see 100 tons of oil at sea, the next day you come, you would find 80 tons. So 20 tons, they either evaporate or break down or just clump together and sink to the bottom. So, but the idea is this is what we report here. It rises from almost 0 all the way up to 30,000 tons within 2 weeks. Now, on the other hand, we are here tracking what is the amount of oil that is beaching, the amount of oil that is hitting the shoreline. And you can see it at some moment, it starts increasing because the oil has started now to reach the shoreline, and then it increases, and at some moment it levels off because there's no more oil being fed to the beaches. And we did that, so this is assuming the well was capped after 2 weeks. There's a similar one when the well was capped after 4 weeks. It is the same. You would see here that this is the amount of oil that is on the surface, and then this is what is being beached, and it always increases, whereas on the surface sometimes, because it is losing mass by evaporation and other processes, and net results is within 2 weeks you have approximately 45,000 tons of oil on the beaches. In summary, we did it for many steps, and here we plot what is the oil that is only beached. And as a function of time, and this is the volume of oil. So we conclude if the well was capped after 1 week, you would have maybe 8,000 tons on the beaches. After 2 weeks, you would have 20,000, and etc., all the way up to here. So that gives an engineering guideline for responders. Like, what is the window that they could have used most effectively to stop it? Now, of course, ideally, everyone say, well, stop it the minute it starts. Well, that's not going to be realistic. But from a risk assessment point of view, in terms of resources, what needs to be set aside, what vessels need to be available, this is something that we were asked to do, and we are communicating now with NOAA for it to be actually useful in their, used in their future investigation. And the conclusion of my talk is that we have staff that have good expertise in dealing with pollution, quantifying it and remediating it. We work with coastal and then offshore systems, and of course it comes to the point where why we are here. I mean, I was attracted to NJIT for a variety of reasons. One of it is that NJIT seemed to me then, but now I'm more convinced, it has a very strong direction in terms of leadership in the areas that were stated. I think in terms of coastal health, I think we could be the leader. We could tell the state which beaches to be closed. We could work closely in terms of public health. So we could be essentially kind of the doctors in terms to the health of the shorelines. With that in mind, I would like to acknowledge the PhD students who did most of the work, the Ali Nassab and Leo Gang. Thank you. And if I may add a point, I want to thank Dean Deek for really the countless hours and the numerous emails that he put to bring the three speakers together, each one of us with different language. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Boufadel. Please join me in thanking Michel, Martina, and Eric for their insightful comments on their work.